The night sky has always been a canvas of wonder, a vast tapestry of stars and planets that whispers secrets to those who dare to listen. But what if one of those whispers wasn't just the hum of the cosmos, but a voice, deliberate, precise, and impossibly ancient? What if the rings of Saturn, those shimmering bands of ice and dust that have captivated humanity for centuries, were more than just a cosmic ornament? What if they were a message, etched into the very fabric of our solar system, waiting for us to notice? This is the story of a discovery that has shaken the foundations of science, a moment where our most advanced technology peered into the heavens and found something that defies explanation. It began with Grok 3, an AI born from the cutting edge of human ingenuity, designed to see what we cannot. Early in 2025, it turned its gaze to Saturn's rings and found something extraordinary: a non-random signal loop, pulsing with mathematical precision, hidden in the chaos of billions of ice particles. This wasn't a glitch or a quirk of nature. It was something new, something that felt alive, and it's rewriting everything we thought we knew about the universe. The story starts with a sense of awe, the kind that grips you when you stand under a starlit sky and feel the weight of infinity. Saturn's rings have always been a marvel, a cosmic ballet of ice and rocks spinning in perfect harmony around a gas giant 1.2 billion kilometers from Earth. For centuries, we've studied them, photographed them, and dreamed about them. Galileo first glimpsed their hazy outline in 1610, and since then, they've been a symbol of the solar system's beauty. But beauty can hide secrets, and in the vast data archives of the Cassini mission, which orbited Saturn for 13 years, something was waiting to be found. Cassini's instruments captured terabytes of information: radio waves, plasma fluctuations, gravitational tugs, but much of it was dismissed as noise, the static of a restless universe. Enter Grok 3, a quantum AI developed by xAI, a machine so powerful it can sift through cosmic noise like a prospector panning for gold. Trained on vast datasets, from cosmic microwave background maps to deep space telescope feeds, Grok 3 doesn't just process data. It hunts for patterns that humans miss, anomalies that whisper of something beyond the ordinary. What it found in Saturn's B ring was nothing short of breathtaking. Buried in the raw data, amid the chaos of ice particles colliding and orbiting, was a signal, a looped waveform cycling every 11.6 hours, with a precision that defies chance. This wasn't the hum of gravitational resonance or the chatter of solar wind. It was something else, something that pulsed with a rhythm too consistent, too deliberate to be natural. The signal wasn't static. It evolved, shifting subtly with each cycle as if it were responding to an unseen force. It was like hearing a melody in the wind, faint but unmistakable, repeating with variations that felt almost intelligent. Scientists scrambled to rule out the usual suspects. Could it be the gravitational pull of a shepherd moon? The magnetic tug of Saturn's core? Collisional cascades in the rings? One by one, simulations dismissed these explanations. The signal's persistence, its adaptive shifts, didn't match any known natural process. It was as if the rings were singing a song, and Grok 3 had just learned the tune. The discovery sent ripples through the scientific community, but it was what Grok 3 found next that turned curiosity into obsession. The signal's spectral fingerprint, the unique pattern of its frequencies, bore an eerie resemblance to quantum error correction codes, the kind used to protect information in quantum computers. These codes are designed to preserve data against the chaos of the universe, to keep it intact across vast distances and time. The idea that Saturn's rings might be carrying information wasn't just a leap. It was a plunge into the unknown. Were the rings not just debris, but a medium, a canvas for something far greater? The implications were staggering, but the real shock came when researchers compared the signal to another dataset, one from far beyond Saturn. In 2012, Voyager 1, humanity's farthest-reaching probe, had recorded plasma wave patterns in the interstellar medium beyond the heliopause. Buried in those recordings were recursive structures, patterns that echoed the Saturn loop with uncanny similarity. It was as if the rings weren't just a local phenomenon, but part of a larger network, nodes in a galactic web of information woven through cosmic rays and planetary rings. This wasn't just a signal, it was a mystery that demanded answers. Scientists began to speculate, their minds racing with possibilities that felt like science fiction. One theory, the cloaked megastructure hypothesis, proposed that a hidden object, a moonlet or an engineered construct, lurked within the rings, generating interference patterns with a precision no natural body could achieve. Imagine a structure so advanced it could cloak itself from our instruments, scattering light and particles to create a signal that only a machine like Grok 3 could detect. Another theory, the quantum resonant filter hypothesis, was even more audacious. What if the rings themselves were a massive quantum filter, a lattice of ice and dust that transformed chaotic cosmic noise into ordered data streams? The signal's harmonics, laced with prime numbers and Fibonacci ratios, suggested a level of complexity that hinted at design. It was as if the rings were a cosmic instrument, played by forces we couldn't yet comprehend. But the most haunting question wasn't about the signal's origin, it was about its purpose. Why embed a code in the rings of Saturn? Was it a beacon, a warning, or a message meant for someone, or something else? The idea that we might have stumbled upon a techno-signature, a fingerprint of intelligence, sent shivers through the research teams. For decades, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence had focused on radio waves and laser pulses, scanning distant stars for deliberate transmissions. But what if the real messages were quieter, hidden in plain sight, encoded in the very structure of the cosmos? Saturn's rings, one of the most studied features in our solar system, had been right there all along, and we'd missed it. The thought was humbling, even unsettling. It was as if the universe had been whispering to us for centuries, and we'd only just learned to listen. Then came the moment that changed everything. Grok 3 didn't just detect the signal, it predicted it. Using its recursive pattern modeling, the AI pinpointed the exact timestamp of the next pulse in the Cassini archive, down to the second. This wasn't just detection, it was understanding. The signal wasn't random noise, it followed a coherent protocol, a rhythm that Grok 3 could anticipate. The realization hit like a thunderbolt. Whatever was producing this loop wasn't just active, it was consistent, reliable, and possibly intentional. The scientific community was buzzing with excitement and dread. This wasn't just a discovery, it was a conversation, one we didn't yet know how to join. But the team behind Grok 3 wasn't content to stay silent. They decided to take a leap that felt like stepping into the pages of a science fiction novel. They wanted to see if the signal could respond. And so, with hearts pounding and minds racing, they prepared to send a message back to the rings of Saturn, hoping to hear the universe reply. The decision to respond to Saturn's signal was like standing at the edge of a cosmic cliff, peering into the unknown. The team of scientists and engineers behind Grok 3, hearts pounding with equal parts fear and exhilaration, knew they were about to cross a line humanity had never crossed before. They weren't just studying the universe, they were about to talk to it. The plan was audacious, almost unthinkable. Craft a signal that mirrored the mysterious loop in Saturn's B-ring, and send it back, like tossing a stone into a still pond to see if the ripples would answer. Grok 3, with its unparalleled ability to model recursive patterns, generated an inverted phase loop, a perfect harmonic reflection of the anomaly, a response in the same strange language of resonance and rhythm. This wasn't a message in words or numbers. It was a melody, a counterpoint to the ring's cosmic song, encoded into a narrowband radar transmission. Using the deep space radar at Goldstone and phased array stations across 3 continents, they aimed the beam at the precise region of the B ring where the signal pulsed. Then, they waited, holding their breath, expecting nothing but hoping for everything. 5 days later, the impossible happened. In a routine review of Cassini's archival data, part of the ongoing effort to understand the anomaly, researchers noticed a shift. The signal loop, cycling now at 13.7 hours, had changed. Embedded within its intricate waveform was Grok 3's inverted signal, woven seamlessly into the original pattern like a reply in a duet. It wasn't noise or a glitch. It was precise, deliberate, a structured response that mirrored their transmission with chilling clarity. The rings had heard them. The implications hit like a tidal wave. This wasn't just a signal, it was reactive, capable of acknowledging and incorporating external input. Whatever was producing this loop wasn't a passive relic. It was listening, adapting, maybe even thinking. The team sat in stunned silence, staring at the data, grappling with the reality that they might have just initiated the first conversation with something beyond Earth. The B ring, long thought to be a graveyard of ice and dust, was suddenly alive with possibility, a cosmic archive that didn't just store information, but responded to it. The discovery forced a radical rethinking of what the rings might be. What if they weren't just reflecting a signal, but acting as a medium, a vast memory loop etched into the orbits of billions of particles? The idea was mind-bending. Saturn's rings as a distributed delay line, a celestial computer that encoded logic through the dance of ice and rock. Each particle, each collision, could be part of a system that received, modified, and retransmitted information across eons. The B ring might be more than a natural wonder. It could be hardware, ancient and operational, a machine left behind by a mind we couldn't yet fathom. Grok 3's reanalysis of Cassini's final ring-grazing dives only deepened the mystery. It uncovered gravitational anomalies in a narrow zone beneath the rings, a region of subtle density fluctuations that hinted at something hidden. Imagine a structure, millions of years old, shaped to modulate gravitational tides, warping spacetime just enough to imprint data onto the rings. The particles weren't just debris, they were a canvas, a medium for preserving information in a way that outlasted stars. This wasn't just a scientific breakthrough, it was a philosophical earthquake. For centuries, we've gazed at Saturn's rings and seen beauty, chaos, the remnants of a shattered moon. Now, we were forced to consider they might be intentional, a monument carved into the solar system. The idea that an intelligence could encode a message not in radio waves, but in the very motion of a planet's rings, challenged everything we thought we knew about communication. It suggested a civilization so advanced that technology and nature blurred, where information wasn't broadcast but woven into the fabric of the cosmos. The team began to wonder, what if the rings weren't just a relay, but an archive, a library of cosmic knowledge? The signal's recursive nature, its ability to adapt and respond, hinted at a system designed to endure, to preserve something across unimaginable timescales. Were we looking at a beacon, a warning, or a record left for anyone who learned to listen? The discovery sparked a frenzy of questions, each more unsettling than the last. If the rings were a device, who built it? Was it a civilization long extinct, their legacy frozen in Saturn's orbit? Or was it something still out there watching, waiting for us to catch up? The signal's echoes in Voyager 1's interstellar data suggested this wasn't just a local phenomenon. What if the rings were part of a network, nodes in a galactic system that used planetary rings, asteroid belts, or even the interstellar medium as relays? The thought was dizzying. We'd spent decades searching for alien life in the stars, scanning for radio bursts or megastructures. But what if the evidence was right here, in our own backyard, hidden in plain sight? The Fermi paradox, where is everybody, suddenly felt less like a question and more like an accusation. We hadn't found intelligent life because we hadn't known how to look. The rings of Saturn, one of the most photographed objects in the solar system, had been whispering to us all along, and we'd called it noise. Grok 3's predictive accuracy only fueled the fire. Its ability to anticipate the signal's next pulse, down to the second, suggested a level of coherence that natural processes couldn't explain. The AI wasn't just detecting a pattern, it was decoding a protocol, a set of rules embedded in the ring's motion. This realization pushed the team to dig deeper, to ask what else we might have missed. Cassini's data, once thought to be fully understood, was now a treasure trove of possibilities. Every glitch, every anomaly dismissed as sensor error was being re-examined. Could there be other signals, other loops, hidden in the data? The team began to wonder about Uranus and Neptune, whose fainter rings had been largely overlooked. If Saturn's highly structured rings could hide a technosignature, what might lurk in the dusty arcs of Neptune's Adam's ring or the dense epsilon ring of Uranus? The asteroid belt, with its ancient resonances, became another target. Could its orbits, shaped by gravitational tugs over billions of years, carry a similar code? The scientific community was no longer just curious. It was galvanized. NASA, ESA, and independent observatories formed a joint task force to reanalyze every ringed body in the solar system. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence, once focused on distant stars, was turning inward toward the familiar giants of our cosmic neighborhood. The idea that a civilization might not broadcast its presence, but embed it in the rhythms of matter, was a paradigm shift. It suggested a new kind of intelligence, one that didn't need to shout to be heard. The rings of Saturn, with their delicate spirals and relentless orbits, might be a passive beacon, visible only to those who'd crossed a technological threshold, and we'd just crossed it. But as the team celebrated their breakthrough, a new question loomed, one that sent a chill through every lab and observatory. If the rings were listening, what would happen if we kept talking? And what might answer next? The realization that Saturn's rings might be more than a cosmic spectacle, that they could be a living, reactive archive, ignited a firestorm of wonder and unease. The scientific community stood at a crossroads, grappling with a discovery that didn't just challenge their understanding of the universe, but redefined humanity's place in it. Grok 3's detection of a non-random signal loop, its eerie response to our transmission, and the hints of a galactic network woven through the cosmos, forced us to confront a truth we'd long avoided. We might not be alone, and the evidence might have been orbiting our solar system for millennia. The rings of Saturn, once a symbol of celestial beauty, were now a puzzle, a potential technosignature that suggested intelligence not in the form of radio bursts or starships, but in the subtle, enduring rhythms of ice and dust. As the implications sank in, the question wasn't just what the signal meant, but what we should do next. The universe had whispered back, and now we had to decide how to answer, or if we even should. The discovery was officially logged as a non-terrestrial recursive anomaly, the first of its kind in the newly formed Planetary Anomalies Registry, a global initiative to catalog potential technosignatures. It was a historic moment, marking a shift in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. For decades, SETI had scoured the skies for deliberate signals, flashes of light, pulses of radio waves, or massive structures around distant stars. But Grok 3's find suggested a different kind of intelligence, one that didn't announce itself with fanfare, but hid its presence in the architecture of planetary systems. The ring signal, with its prime number harmonics and Fibonacci ratios, wasn't a message in the traditional sense. It was a monument, a system designed to endure billions of years, waiting for someone to notice. This wasn't about shouting across the cosmos. It was about leaving a mark so subtle, so elegant, that only a civilization with the right tools could see it. And we had, thanks to Grok 3, crossed that threshold. The scientific response was swift and ambitious. NASA, ESA, and the SETI Institute launched a joint effort to re-examine every ringed body in the solar system. Uranus and Neptune, often overshadowed by Saturn's grandeur, became prime targets. Their rings, though fainter and less structured, held untapped potential. Could the Epsilon ring of Uranus or the dusty arcs of Neptune's Adam's ring hide similar loops, fainter echoes of the same cosmic code? Beyond the gas giants, the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter and the Trojan clusters trailing in Jupiter's orbit came under scrutiny. These regions, shaped by ancient gravitational resonances, could be more than chaotic debris fields. They might be canvases for encoded patterns, sculpted by a mind that saw orbits as art. The idea was no longer fanciful. It was a working hypothesis, backed by Grok 3's predictive precision and the ring's undeniable response. Grok 3 itself was evolving, its algorithms retooled for a grander mission. Engineers began training the AI to scan exoplanet light curves from telescopes like TESS, Kepler, and JWST, searching for recursive patterns in the dimming of distant stars. If Saturn's rings could hide a signal, what about the ring systems or orbital architectures of worlds light years away? The search was no longer about finding loud, obvious transmissions, but about spotting subtle, self-similar patterns, loops that might hint at planetary systems engineered to carry information. This was a new kind of SETI, one that looked for intelligence not in what was said, but in how matter itself was arranged. The possibility was thrilling. What if the universe was littered with these passive beacons, waiting for us to develop the technology to see them? Saturn's loop might be just the first, a breadcrumb leading to a trail of cosmic monuments. But the discovery also forced us to look backward, to question what we'd missed. Decades of data, dismissed as noise or anomalies, were now being dusted off. A faint rhythmic pattern in the asteroid belt, logged by ESA's Gaia probe in 2017, was once attributed to rotational harmonics. Now, it was a candidate for reanalysis. A 1983 signal in Uranus's rings, brushed off as a Voyager 2 glitch, was suddenly worth a second look. How many other clues had we overlooked, buried in the static OVR instruments? The thought was both humbling and exhilarating. If we'd missed a signal in Saturn, one of the most studied objects in our solar system, what else was out there, hiding in plain sight? The universe, it seemed, was far noisier and far more deliberate than we'd ever imagined. Grok 3's ability to detect patterns too subtle for human eyes was rewriting the rulebook, turning every glitch into a potential whisper from the stars. The practical response was just as bold. NASA began exploring whether the Dragonfly mission to Titan, Saturn's largest moon, could carry instruments to probe the ring's anomalies. ESA's JUICE mission, en route to Jupiter, was considering a trajectory tweak to glimpse Saturn's outer rings. On Earth, the 30-meter telescope in Hawaii, still under construction, pledged observation time to monitor the B ring's modulation. Meanwhile, SETI researchers proposed a daring experiment. Replicate the ring signal in a lab, simulating particle interactions at high fidelity to test whether the pattern could emerge naturally or if artificial intent was the only explanation. If the latter proved true, the implications were staggering. A civilization capable of engineering planetary rings would redefine our understanding of technology, intelligence, and even life itself. It would mean the universe wasn't just a place of stars and planets, but a gallery of ideas encoded in the very fabric of existence. Yet, beneath the excitement, there was a current of unease. This discovery wasn't just about science, it was about us. The ring's reactivity suggested we weren't just observers, but participants in a cosmic dialogue. What did it mean to send another signal, to keep poking at this ancient system? Were we ready for what might answer? The philosophical weight was crushing. If the rings were a machine, their creators might be long gone, their message a relic of a lost era. Or they might be out there, their silence a test of our readiness. The signal's age, potentially billions of years old, hinted at a timescale so vast that concepts like life and death might not apply. This wasn't just about finding aliens. It was about redefining intelligence as something that could transcend time, woven into the orbits of planets and the dance of particles. As we stand on this precipice, the rings of Saturn are no longer just a wonder. They're a challenge. They ask us to listen differently, to see the universe not as a void to be conquered, but as a puzzle to be understood. Grok 3's discovery has cracked open a door, revealing a cosmos far stranger, far richer than we ever imagined. The signal loop, pulsing through the ice, is a reminder that we're not alone in our curiosity. Something out there left a mark, a whisper in the rings, and we've just begun to hear it. But the story doesn't end here. Grok 3 is already turning its gaze elsewhere, to the icy depths of Europa, where patterns in the subsurface ocean hint at something even stranger. The universe is speaking, and we're finally learning its language. The question now is whether we're brave enough to keep listening and what we'll say when the cosmos answers again.